This is New Mexico Frontiers. Presented by Veris Research.
Hello, and thank you for joining us on this edition of New Mexico Frontiers, the digital series. And more, as we talk about technology, oftentimes we're talking about products that may not have a traditional production. They may go through different types of creation. But the new way that things are being done, in a lot of ways that things are being done, is through 3D printing. You've probably seen houses, you've seen various products, and you've seen the multitude of things that people can do just even in their own home using 3D printing. We are talking to a couple of experts in this field this morning, Steve Hull and Zach Pacheco with Roadrunner 3D. Guys, thanks for being with us. Before we get into the various products, the benefits of 3D printing, and I know that you brought some stuff to kind of show and tell what we're going to do. Tell us first a little bit about the company, because it seems that the trajectory and where you guys have gone, you started big and then you honed in. A lot of times businesses do it the opposite. They have to start small and go big, but you guys had stars in your eyes from day one. Is that right?
Well, that's yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's correct. I can give you a quick little history if you'd like. So Roadrunner kind of evolved from our parent corporation, which is Westwind. We're an IT VAR. We're a large HP shop, and we were diversifying our offerings to our customer base. We do a lot of Fed business, so we were always looking at emerging technologies. 3D print caught our eye. HP invested heavily in their MJF printing solutions. So as a very loyal partner with HP, we started exploring that, and it caught our eye as something that the federal government space really needed, right? They wanted, quick production of supply chain, right? Mm-hmm. And it could be mobile if they wanted it to. So we explored that, and so we our thought process was we'd be selling these large units, and then we diversified into other type of OEMs, other type of print technologies. And what we thought, hey, what would help drive sales more, which would be printing, kind of the old Kinko's model, Right. You start printing for people until they can justify the need to buy a unit. So we kind of went down that road, is kind of think of it as like a Kinko's 3D. And then we found more and more that the sales side was very difficult for us to penetrate in that market space. They wanted materials that we couldn't offer at the time. But then we saw a huge void in New Mexico. This was around COVID time, and there were a lot of needs for quick production. We had a lot of unique opportunities to help people with breathing devices and ventilation devices. So we thought, hey, maybe this would work. So we started investing heavily. We started up the Roadrunner 3D side, and we grew those capabilities. And we thought, okay, our target's still the federal market space, which we do some, but we found, again, that void here in New Mexico specifically, but also in the region, is we had a lot of capacity. A lot of folks were shipping stuff out to California and to Dallas, but they could do it right here at home. And so we had a ton of capability. We had a lot of ability to do other services, scanning services, post-production services. So we thought, hey, we really have an opportunity to invest and grow in this space. And since then, that's really become our focus. We're not really doing the sales side of machines as much as we are doing the production. And I'll let Zach share a little bit more about where that's gone in the last few years. But I think we're in our 4th or 5th year of the journey. And
really? Okay.
We started out, some people, start small, grow big. We started out big, and then we really started to hone in on who is our customer. We constantly were trying to find out who is our customer, and it's not who we thought it was.
Really?
And which was kind of exciting, I'll have to say, and because it gave us an opportunity to make a big difference and bring new opportunities that didn't exist here. And we're still meeting new individuals that go, wow, these capabilities change, what I'm able to do as bringing ideas to the table. So
Zach, I understand that you, speaking of some of the things that you do and some of the fulfillments you're able to do, you have brought in some pieces that you have done 3D printing for.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about them as you show them to us and kind of what industry they're working in.
Yeah, definitely. So, I've got a couple different examples here from some industries. One of the ones we've doing a lot is like model making. So this is kind of showcasing the MJF technology he was mentioning earlier, which is not your typical run-of-the-mill 3D printing. We're able to get some of these really unique and interesting geometries without having to use support structures like typical 3D printing, because all of this is being printed in a building of powder. It's like a build unit, roughly 15-inch square, and in that build unit you could pack as many parts as you could fit roughly in certain orientations, and it gives you kind of an idea of the amount of detail and things that you can get using this technology versus something like this is the FDM kind of side of 3D printing. So this is using, like the rolls of filament and kind of like the more at-home solutions you were talking about before, where you have that roll that kind of is able to then lay the filament down one layer at a time.
Right.
Whereas this process actually is using micron layers of powder, and it's using the fusing agent that goes one layer at a time to stack the parts that way. So this is actually a solid PA12 nylon versus this could be in a multitude of different like PLA or ABS, things like that.
Is there a difference between these two? And again, just kind of thinking about what sets your company apart maybe from other 3D printing. Because I think a lot of people, when we talk about 3D printing, we've seen those videos of it going back and forth, and we see one later at a time. Is this a stronger, a more stable way to print as opposed to this? Can this fracture easier, like doing some of these layers?
Yeah, definitely, and that's a great point with the layering of these, and that's all controlled. With this process, is you can adjust the tightness and the way you build these layers. Whereas here, it's actually where you can create wall thicknesses, but it is a solid material. It ends up becoming solid PA12 nylon through the fusing agent, which solidifies them together. Whereas this could be good for showcase pieces, and there is a multitude of different materials that you could run through this process. So you can get all the way up to like Peak and Ultim, which are really high strength, higher temperature materials. You just need the proper nozzles and outputs and everything to do that. Whereas this has a lot wider of a range where you can do more, like I said, these complex geometries without the structure and things that you need with the typical 3D printing. Another example we've got too is like this was a car part for an Audi that we'd redesigned, and just showing like the application of it, where this is actually in a car right now that we're utilizing and testing, and this is from an older model Audi where they're having a hard time sourcing this part. Right. And so they brought me the existing one, which had kind of a crack through this area. And so being able to take the existing kind of, make the adjustments needed to beef up the design, and then to print a prototype, just a one-off, which is impossible for most people to be able to do, and then to test it in his car, So we've been able to do quite a bit of different things using this technology. And then, like he was saying before, another offering is getting into like the post-processing side of things. We're then taking this gray material, and this is how the parts come out straight out of the printer after you blast them. This is basically what they look like. We have other ways in town where it can go through a process of like vapor smoothing, or we can get things painted. And so this was done with like a local lowrider painter here in town. But this is an oryx skull that we had from a 3D scan, and this is all 3D printed. And then we had a local artist do like the painting on it, so you could see just like the finishes you can get for art applications for different types of things. And so it's a really versatile material, and one of the ones that you don't see very often in the market anywhere, especially because a lot of the people that offer this service, it's in a factory behind closed doors, and they're just producing one item for some company, pretty consistent. So this is very unique to be offering this type of service to local small businesses and things.
So I mean, it really seems, just kind of looking at this, I have no idea what this thing does, and I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, oh, this is a really complex Lego piece, but it's not.
Yeah,
this is something that is. I would imagine that it being a solid piece like this, it's also stronger. Is that, as opposed to layering something, you're going to have strength if it's just a single piece.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one thing that's great about this technology is all of that can be completely customized, in the what's called the slicing process. So when you have a geometry and you're taking that geometry in 3D and you're wanting to print it, you set all the parameters to that part that you want printed, what the material is going to be, all the different aspects, all the way down to the density and the thickness of it, and that'll all adjust the price. So there might be a part, for example, say you need this front part to be super beefy,
Right.
and you don't need it. It has to be attached with bolts. You don't want it to break.
Right.
But maybe this piece over here just has a tube attached. It doesn't need to be super beefy. I can create a part where this is 100% solid, super thick, and then maybe create like a lattice in here. Wow. So it's a lot less material being used on this section, which is going to save costs in manufacturing. But it's just removing all the unnecessary bits.
That is incredible.
And so and this is another kind of example on that same edge. But this was a part that used to be cast out of a block of aluminum.
Okay.
And so this whole piece was just a straight kind of rectangular block of aluminum, and then running it through one of our processes called NTOP, which is a program where you can take a geometry and you mark where stress points are in different areas, and it'll analyze it and basically remove all the unneeded material that is going to be part of this geometry, and just leave you with exactly what you need. So all the excess material gets taken away, which saves on the process of manufacturing. So instead of them having to take a big block of aluminum and then they whittle it down to having these points, we just print this out of powder, and all the material that isn't necessary is gone. And so it's one of those new, and it'll apply the exact same properties, if not better, than the aluminum one itself. And so that's something that's really amazing. And then with the waste too, that was another huge factor when you're doing something, with aluminum, and you're doing a lot of those block molds where you have to remove all the material. And a lot of that either goes to waste or has to be really melted, and things where with this, you print what you need, and then any of the excess material that gets, vacuumed back gets recycled through. And we run an 80-20% ratio, so any print we run is 80% recycled versus 20% new. And so so we're constantly reusing material until eventually it gets to a point where you can't reuse it, because then you start seeing quality issues.
Sure.
And then we can take that powder that is unusable for us, and we send it to a company actually up in Canada, and they turn it into like playground equipment and do different things with it. Then they can melt it down and use it for different applications.
So we are really cutting down on waste with this.
So this is a big opportunity at that, and being able to take, like you said, some of the smaller businesses and offer that as a way to, expand their own unique, business or products or things, And so.
Well, and on Frontiers, we speak all the time with entrepreneurs and startups that are trying. In fact, yesterday I did an interview with a startup in Santa Fe, and they had a very particular product that they had to get prototyped. And just talking with her about that process of prototyping, that can sometimes, for a small startup, that can be the real roadblock from getting that idea and that vision into reality, into market. And you guys are actually helping people do that, right?
Yeah.
So if they come to you with this idea, they don't know where to prototype it or to show something. Not only can you get the piece, but you can get it looking camera ready, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Like this is what it looks like coming out, but you can also say this is what the end product is going to look like, which I think in manufacturing and in speculative business, that's very expensive, and it's very rare to find someone that can do this in a cost-effective manner.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we found, especially because of the material. It is a great material for both prototyping and for end-use parts. So it's great because you're using the same thing through the whole stage. And we've seen success in a lot of different areas with it, as far as being able to take it through all these stages. And like you were saying too, the rapid prototyping is huge. Where say something was going to be attached to this part particularly, and you needed to adjust tolerance instead of printing it once and then adjusting the tolerance and redoing it a bunch of times. I could just maybe take this single part of the model, remove it from the rest, and then just print this part in a bunch of different tolerances, and then test fit it a whole bunch of ways until it works, and then I apply that to the rest, and then it's done.
That's incredible. That is just so incredible.
Pretty cost saving if you think about the time effectiveness, the time to market. You think if people are going to injection molding, they spend a lot of money, getting a mold made, and then find out, hey, that's not what I want. So now, it's not inexpensive up front, and it's time consuming. And so in a matter of days, we can have your prototypes out and then go into low run production once somebody finds, a model or a system they like. And maybe along the way, they decide to tweak it, and they learn lessons from it. Yeah. We can do that, in a moment. So
that's
I think
really
it's
incredible.
It's one of the things that you look at up front, some folks go, oh, it's more expensive than injection molding, but when you look at the total process and how fast you can introduce products or ideas or make changes, it's very cost effective.
Yeah, it really seems that way. And it also seems, because like I said, looking at some of those parts, not knowing what I'm looking at, what does it go to? But that also kind of speaks to the fact that here we're looking at this that really could be, you could buy this in a gallery, right? Like you could buy this if you're shopping for something for your home. Yeah. Or if you, like you said, you're restoring a car, this part has not been manufactured by, the car company for decades. You can 3D print it. So there's a variety of different applications, variety of different industries. What are some of the popular industries that you guys are printing for and working with?
Yeah, so one of our more popular ones is actually going back to this piece I was showing you. This is for Model Maker. We do a lot of model parts. So for this. There's companies around town actually, and then also in Pennsylvania that we work with pretty closely that do some really high-end models for different, it's all sorts of companies actually globally, which is pretty interesting, and they need this technology to get some of these more intricate models. So that's been a big one that's open for us. And then locally, we've been seeing a lot with like the auto industry and doing car parts and things. And more recently, we started offering, actually, this is another material. It's called Lubrizol, but it's the same material. But if you want to squeeze it, it's the same material that they used to make like the Mars rover tires out of, and it's the same printing process, but then it adds that elastomeric property, and there's different applications then that open up that way, and so that's another thing that we've been offering to some of the local auto shops and things. And there's a lot of manufacturers that are doing fittings, and they need really unique like couplings and fitting parts for and I'm not 100% sure what they're doing, but they come through with maybe 5 or 6 different reiterations for designs and how things need to fit together, and then we're able to come up with a solution based off of the different services that we offer. And we've also, like with the art side of things, with some local artists on things like this where they've wanted to take an idea. Another one I brought was from a local artist where he had a show sheep that he did, and he modeled this out of clay actually. And he had initially was a model out of clay, and so he took it, did a full 3D scan of it, and then we've been printing them for him, and he's been selling them. He repaints them and does them as models and stuff for his shows, and it's been really picking up steam, and we've been able to put his logo and stuff on the bottom.
Oh my gosh!
And so like little things like that. So like really to take his stuff to like the next level for him, and it's not super expensive for him to do. It's very reasonable, and then we were also able to do this in so many materials and adjustments for him, and that's something you can go onto our social media, and we'll have more about that soon, about his projects and what he's doing. But that's just like another example of, just a local person came to us with an idea and want us to try to take something to market or do something, and using, multiple different services that we offer, to get them to something that they can then, sell to people.
Wow, that is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, it really seems like the sky's the limit on what you can potentially do. That said, are there limitations to 3D printing technology? Are there things that we haven't been able to cross the threshold yet of, yes, this can be replaced with 3D printing from, legacy technology?
Yeah.
Have you guys found like sort of the threshold of where it can go yet and what it can't do yet?
Yeah, so I feel like one of the biggest ones is scale. So I think like on you're getting to like certain scale parts, and a big popular thing that comes through is auto body parts or specific car parts and things. And a lot of those trim pieces are bigger than 15 inches, but they need to have that sleek, clean one part look, things like that. So there's been applications where scale has become a factor. And then you could get into like cost for one. He was saying like upfront cost for some of these higher end technologies can be a lot for some people, but once you really like he said, break out the entire planning of what it takes for you to get from A to B, or all the way to an end use prior, there's so many other things that come into play that you're maybe not even taken into account, and so I think this is a way that we've been able to get more people comfortable, utilizing this technology and being able to offer it in a way that's more affordable by doing some of the prototyping with like the FDM side first, and getting them comfortable with the process and getting them to a point where then they can see, okay, I'm comfortable now, jumping into the deep water with this other stuff, Right. And so that's been one of the hurdles we were working through with different customers as well. And then just, the strength-wise, like you're saying, of the material, there's a lot of things that, are maybe made out of metal or some type of steel or things, and that's something that we're hoping to in the future get into, as we're working with some companies right now, to try to get into the metal 3D printing space using binder jetting, which is another fascinating, side of 3D printing right now that's starting to really get its legs and starting to do cool things in the state. And so we're hoping eventually, that's going to be a service that we can offer as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So speaking of, as you said, you kind of started off, big, and then you went small on this. But looking forward, Steve, where do you hope to see Roadrunner 3D maybe 5-10 years down the road?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chad. I think one of the things that really appeals to us is it's an evolving technology. It's been around a long time, but it's moving at a faster pace, much like computers, how quickly that they've been evolving. And so, being early adopters, being able to introduce new capabilities. But I think more importantly, we have found a niche of being involved in education and the learning and creating that workforce.
Oh, wow.
So, it's known a lot of people have the, hobby 3D printers, but they don't really know how much it can scale. They don't know that there's so much more beyond just the print. There's the design, there's the post-processing. So we're trying to help create some of those interests and new jobs in the future. And so we're working with, everything from high schools, colleges, user groups to really support the knowledge and capabilities of that. So really what we don't see there's been some companies come and go, a lot of folks just working out of their garage, but, as far as well-organized 3D print, additive manufacturing services, we see ourselves as evolving into the premier offering in our area and maybe able to compete with some of those really large entities. We're considered a mid-size, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The large folks that have these MJF houses, they have hundreds of these large units, right, or they have large print farms in this space. Then at the other end, you have the folks in a garage with like one unit, maybe 2 units. So we're fortunate enough, because of having a parent organization that was involved in the sales side, of being able to immediately create a ton of capability. So now we're trying to catch up and utilize that capability and resource that we have. So, again, we just, long-term sustainability and staying involved in the community.
Yeah. Well, and it really seems as, because I would imagine that some entrepreneurs and some startups, they would be intimidated by the big companies, or we're just not there yet. We can't afford to take this. And they don't want to go with someone in the garage doing it because they're, we need something a little better. So you're really kind of fitting that niche of, those serious entrepreneurs that have a great idea. They just need to get, a few, and they need to get it out to market. So down the road, they can scale it up. But it seems like for some people, it would not be possible without a company like Roadrunner 3D, really meeting them where they are at, giving a high quality product with the diverse lineup of different designs, different finishes, different strengths. So if someone listening, watching this, they are a startup and they're thinking, yep, that's me, got this great product. How do they get in touch? What is the process of starting business with you guys and taking that idea into something real?
Yeah, so a good way of just going to the website for one, is on our website they can go into contacting us directly, writing out a description of what they need, and we'll get back to them right away with that. Or even if they have some models or some files that they're already wanting to get some ideas with, they can run it through our coding system also on our website, and they don't need to do an account or anything. They can test it and put some ideas on there, and they can check some materials and see how much it'll cost roughly, and do quantities and all of that on our website as well.
Really?
So, yeah. So some things that we can utilize now that I think some people can really take advantage of that and start getting ideas of pricing and future stuff without having to make any sort of commitments. And then also just giving us a call, calling us. We're happy to talk with you, and then from there we'd have you come down to the shop if you have anything to bring, anything. And we've worked from like I said, a complete 3D model all the way to like a 2D sketch on a drawing, like a paper, just anything.
On a napkin,
yeah, we've literally had that kind of whole thing. And so we could work with anybody, and I think that's one of the things that's been exciting the past year or so, is having more of that open kind of accessibility and people coming through the doors every day. We have more and more people coming through, and a lot of them are quick turnaround things where it's just somebody, man, I just need this done. And then we've a few of our bigger ones where it's a process, and we're working with them closely to getting their product or their idea to where they want it, and so I think that's one thing that we're really excited to offer, and it's all about just getting more people aware of us, and like you said before, getting people to understand that difference between kind of your run-of-the-mill typical 3D printing and the trinkets and the stuff, to the actual small batch production and things that we could do on the higher level that we can offer, and so just trying to bridge that gap and making that more known here locally, I think, is one of our biggest goals here with this upcoming year, and kind of moving forward to eventually, like he said, get to that place where I want to see us as the premier 3D location here, where people, when they need any kind of service, we've been on the cutting edge floor and working on all these different processes, and we feel confident that we can offer them something that they're going to be happy with.
I'd like to add one thing to that, and we keep talking locally, but we have a lot of national customer base, and they'll find out about us. It's not specifically, they might be out just getting quotes and saying, hey, we're looking at all the service bureaus, but because we have that high touch availability, full production, if you don't have your idea like we talked about, somebody just comes in with a napkin idea or has a drawing and they want it enhanced for 3D, we're able to walk through that whole process with them. We just recently worked with a customer that was offshoring all this capability, and they weren't getting the interactive services, the design the design services and such, and they were thrilled. We were still very competitive, but we had those additional service offerings that they valued and needed. So
and I think a lot of people too, they can have that really great idea for the product. They don't know how to get to that middle point from the idea to its realization. So the fact that you guys are offering help with that as well and helping them realize that two-dimensional drawing and making it in a 3D space and an effective 3D space, that alone, I mean, is a great service that you guys are offering people. Because I know, someone like me, if I came up with a design, I would probably be in that, well, I know it's supposed to look like this, and this is what it's going to do at the end of the day. It's that middle part I'm a little gray on, so that we would need that help.
Totally, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I found, especially with like the local, kind of group that we've been seeing coming through more recently. It's been exciting because they do have that opportunity to get that idea and go and sit down with me in an office, and we could spend an hour going through that middle process that you spoke of, and going through all those things and getting them up to speed with what it's going to take to get there, and then making a game plan, and then all of that happening within a close conversation. It's so much more, I don't know, it just happens so much better, and there's just a synergy there, with everything.
That I think is really, that is, and that's honestly priceless when you can really find that synergy between a designer and, someone that's got that idea, because a lot of times you don't have that. You don't have someone
especially if it's on an email or they're a chat thing, or even Zoom is hard, but when you're sitting down right across from somebody and you're drawing stuff and passing and they're drawing it back, and you can walk them back and show them the machine, and then pull some materials out, and you're there with them, and it's it's a very unique, I think, experience for like you're saying, like a startup or an entrepreneur to get that kind of service.
That moment that they see that idea.
And that's the biggest part, is when you get it and you physically there, and that's why I'm excited to eventually get, you guys on site and have a good walkthrough of the capabilities of our shop and get to see it, because it's a whole different experience when you're there. I feel like
a kid in a candy store.
That's I was just going to say.
Come out with their eyes.
Or Christmas morning and they see their product realized. That's got to be amazing.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things, is when we have the people walk through with their ideas and they're looking kind of at our showcase wall, and you could just see the wheels turning. I could just see their wheels going crazy, and it's exciting because then it helps us to grow, and then helps us to get more people out there. And so I think it's been exciting for us to see that kind of transition happen. And like he said, thinking about the big thing and then whittling it down and seeing all these opportunities, and you just never know when that spark walks in the door, and something huge comes from it. And we've had products now that are on Amazon and things that people have made that are
kidding.
And that was stuff that literally came from a 2D drawing, and now you could buy a pack of them on Amazon. So there's we've had some good success stories with that in the past year, and it's exciting to see, and especially the customers and the clients, and just giving them that confidence too, to know that you can do this and you can make this, and in the there's the crazy state of our economy and everything going on, being able to bring something more local and manufacturing here is huge for people right now, and not having to outsource or thinking about ordering things offshore, and really being able to focus that, and I think that's something I'm really excited about too, is not just offering a super high quality service and product, but it's coming from New Mexico, it's coming from Albuquerque.
Made in New Mexico. We always like that. I know we got to wrap up, but very quickly, where can we find you guys online?
So if you go to our website, roadrunner3d.net, you'll find all of our information on there, as well as our social media. If you look up Roadrunner 3D on Instagram, Facebook, you can find us on there. And feel free to reach out, comment, or subscribe to our channels. We're going to be doing some stuff, some more video format stuff, and trying to roll out that in the coming year. So if you guys just get on board, and like I said before, just feel free to call, reach out, ask questions. All of us down there are super happy to talk to you about stuff, and we're just grateful to have this space here to offer for people.
Well, we are grateful that you guys are here, and I'm sure that there are a lot of startups and a lot of tinkerers and makers watching this that hopefully they will be giving you a call very soon. Guys, thanks for your time this morning. Thanks for bringing this in. Keep up the great work.
Yeah, thank you, Chad.
Appreciate what you guys do as well, making aware of some of the capabilities that are here in New Mexico.
Yeah, and,
So
and
thank
it's
you for
amazing.
that.
Every day we're discovering new stuff
Yeah, we
that's
appreciate it.
happening here in New Mexico, which is what this whole series is about. So glad that you guys are now part of
Thank
it.
you. Yeah,
appreciate
appreciate
it.
it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. And if you want more information on this this episode, other episodes, or New Mexico Frontiers on air, just head over to krqe.com. Until next time, I'm Chad Brummett. This has been New Mexico Frontiers, the digital series.